Hey, good afternoon guys. So I may have almost forgotten to go to work this morning. Almost. I remembered 5 minutes after I would usually have left the house to catch the bus. Oops. So I did end up watching the Nanny Diaries last night, finally, and it was actually better than I remember, which is really cool because sometimes you remember things a little bit better than they were, and this was the opposite case, and I was really happy I rewatched it, and bought it for that matter. So I mentioned that it's one of my favourite movies, and it's kind of for a mixture of reasons, but one of them is it was my first introduction into anthropology, and it's kind of strange, but I was aware of anthropology beforehand, but I had never really thought about it, and that movie made me think about it for the first time and consider it as an interesting thing. It was kind of one of the starting points of how I got to where I am now. So I thought today I would talk about what I'm studying, what I want to do with it, and that sort of thing. So I mentioned previously that I've already got a degree. I've got a Bachelor in Computer Graphic Design, but it turned out not really to be my thing by the end of it. I actually went into working in retail for about 4 years before I decided enough was enough. So I decided that I need to do something else. So I kind of went at it not letting myself talk myself out of anything. I considered all of the options I'd always thought would be, oh, that would be so cool to do, but I had always told myself they were ridiculous, they were too out there, I would never get there. So I stopped that. I didn't let myself talk out of it. I came up with 3 things I'd always wanted to do. The first one was special effects and props in Hollywood movies. I always thought that was so cool. It was my favourite part of watching movies, was seeing the really cool sets and all the cool effects, not the digital effects, but the actual effects, explosions and illusions and all those sorts of things. I always found that really interesting. The second one was a librarian, and the third was anything to do with artifacts and museums. The first one I decided against. As much as it would be fun, it wasn't really, it was kind of a whimsy dream. It wasn't something I could actually see myself doing. Librarian was something I considered for a long time, but again, when it came down to it, I like books, but I physically like books. I like old books, I like leather-bound books. I like physically books, not the content. And that's brought me into museums and artifacts. And I love history, and I love physical items of history, and so the idea of working in a museum is absolutely a dream for me. So I talked to a few people. I got into touch with local museums and people I knew who were in the industry, and most people point towards needing a museum studies, preferably like a master's in museum studies. So I actually went into this degree kind of the opposite to how most people do. Most people pick the courses that they find interesting, and then later on try and figure out how to build that into a career, whereas I picked the job, the dream job, and then built the degree around it. So I started out with museum studies, and then built a BA all around that. So I'm doing anthropology because human history is something I find very fascinating, especially the culture of human history. And then I'm also doing classics because the part of the world that I'm interested in, I'm the sort of person who likes to start at the beginning. When I started getting into the Vlogbrillas, I watched all the videos from the beginning. I didn't watch the new ones. I watched from the very first, and I worked my way through. And that's how I am. I have to start from the beginning. So I thought, well, the best place to start would be one of the most ancient and influential cultures. So I'm doing Greek history and then Greek myth. I wanted to do Roman history, but it kind of clashed with other stuff. So those are my 2 majors. I'm also doing Latin, and I am doing one European history paper. So I kind of built it around the thing I'm most interested in is English history and English early culture, sort of early history, and prehistory is what I'm most excited about. I am hoping to do an exchange to England next year, which I'm very excited about, because the University of East Anglia, who's a partner university to Victoria, where I go, has an archaeology course. So that's totally up my alley. I'm so excited. You can't do as far as I'm aware, you can't do archaeology in New Zealand. It hasn't got an old enough culture, and there's a very limited amount of things you can do with archaeology in the country, so it's not really easy to study, whereas doing it in a place with such a rich history is so exciting. I'm a bit excited, if you can tell. So what I want to do, I want to do something in museum work. After talking to a lot of people, the areas I think I'd probably end up getting into are collections management or curation, because I really want to be in there. I want to touch all of the things, basically. I want to be able to interact with the artifacts, and those two seem the closest to what I'm after. I did consider doing restoration, but that seems like way too much responsibility. I don't really want to have that much control over something I could break and ruin forever, so that is out of the question. So yeah, I just thought I'd let you guys know, because I have mentioned that I'm studying and I keep going on about my Latin and that sort of thing, so I thought I'd give you guys an idea of what I was studying and why I was studying it, and also why I enjoy that movie so much. So now if you guys have any questions, please ask. I would really love to answer questions. It doesn't have to be about this, it can be about anything at all. I'd also like to hear about you guys, what you studied, what you were studying, what you'd like to do in the future. That would be really interesting.